guys, welcome back to another episode of True Crime Thursday. So last night I was listening to a podcast about this case and it gave me visceral chills, so I was like, I need to cover this story on the channel. Now, like any human being on earth, I love knowing what the fuck happens. I like conclusions, I like solid answers and evidence, so disappearances always leave me wanting more. They're never solved because the solved ones end up not being disappearances, they become homicides. Now, Bryce's case was just so odd. Like, I don't understand where he could have gone, and I fail to believe he died that night because there's just no evidence of that, so where did he up and go? This is the shady disappearance of Bryce Laspisa, the victim. So Bryce was born on the 30th of April 1994 in Springfield, Illinois, to parents Karen and Michael, and he was an only child, so you can imagine how much his parents doted on him. Now, after graduating from Naperville Central High School in 2012, Bryce went off to Sierra College to study industrial and graphic design. He had always been good at art and passionate about it, so it was only natural that he took this path. Now, at the same time, his parents retired and moved to California, so they were only about 90 miles away from Bryce while he was at college. And honestly, his freshman year was good. He made a bunch of close friends, he started dating a girl called Kim Sly, and moreover, he was getting good grades, so honestly, he was at a peak, or so it seemed. Now, the summer holidays come and go, and Bryce's sophomore year was about to start in 2 weeks, and he was ready. He was back to classes, back to session with his friends and girlfriend, and just the usual college shenanigans. But then something switched. Bryce's personality completely changed. He started being less and less social, he became depressed and started using Vyvanse, which is just another form of Adderall, even though he had never been diagnosed with ADHD. And honestly, this is no surprise. The amount of people at uni that would take Adderall the day before a huge essay was due was crazy. Disclaimer, I've never actually tried it myself. Stay away from drugs. Now anyway, along with Vyvanse, he also began drinking every day, and when Kim was like, babe, what the fuck are you doing? He claimed he had taken the medicine so he could stay up and play video games. But this is just odd, like someone's personality doesn't do a 180 switch up like that unless something traumatic happened to them, rendering that change. So let's move on to the case. Now, something must have happened right before he went back to school, because within the first 2 weeks of the semester, Bryce was routinely taking Vyvanse, but that wasn't even the worst part. On the 27th of August, he randomly broke up with Kim, texting her saying she'd be better off without him. He also sent his roommate and best friend Sean a disturbing text as well, and it read, "I love you, bro, seriously. You are the best person I've ever met. You saved my soul." He also gave away his Xbox and diamond earrings that day, which seems like things somebody does when they're about to go away for a long time. The ending of a relationship, the heartfelt message to his best friend, getting rid of precious belongings. It just sounds like him trying to tie up loose ends or just kind of conclude his life at college. Now, the next day, Sean called Bryce's mum to tell her that he was worried about him, that he just wasn't acting right, and he was scared for him. The same evening, Bryce calls his mum all worked up. He was at Kim's house and she took his car keys away from him because she thought he was in absolutely no condition to drive. And Bryce was basically like, "Mum, tell her I'm fine. She's just upset because I broke up with her yesterday. I'm literally good." And so Karen spoke to Kim and told her to give him his keys back and that he's fine. Now, at this point, with the text from Sean and talking to Kim, Karen was like, "I think I should come and see you and just make sure you're okay. I can literally fly out in the next few hours." And Bryce was like, "No, don't worry, it's fine. I'll call you tomorrow. I have a lot to talk to you about." So by 11:30 p.m. that night, he had left Kim's house and was supposedly on the way home. Now, at 1 a.m., Bryce calls his mum again just to check in and make sure she's not worried. And Karen, of course, thinks Bryce is calling from the comfort of his bed, but when authorities later tracked which cell tower pinged, it was somewhere around an hour away from his apartment. So the next morning at like 11 a.m, Karen gets a call saying Bryce needed roadside assistance, and so he used their insurance and she's there trying to call him and see what's up, and he's just not answering. She ends up getting through to Sean, who tells her that Bryce actually never came home the night before. Now thankfully Bryce was using his family credit card and Karen was able to see the bank statements and see that the last purchase that he had made was from Castro Tire and Gas in this town called Button Willow. Like where in buttfuck nowhere is Bryce at this point? Now it's located 3 hours north from where his family lived, so again I'm like, why is he there? He doesn't know anyone. This town has no attractions, it's just like a stop and go kind of town. Now this is the part where I'm glad that there are good people out there, because his parents ended up calling the shop and speaking to the owner, Christian, and he told them he actually had given 3 gallons of gas to Bryce at around 9 AM so he could make it to the petrol pump in town. And since the parents were so worried, Christian offered to go to the pump to see if he was there or not. And lo and behold, Christian finds Bryce in the exact same position that he had left him in 3 hours beforehand. Now he makes Bryce speak to his mum on the phone and he just told her that he was just sitting, and at that point his mum doesn't even know what to say to him, so she just tells him, just fill up your tank and come home. So if we do the math, it's 12 PM at this point, he's 3 hours away from home, so he should reach at 3:30 max, right? But by 3:30 his parents call him to check up on where he is and they get no response. They try calling him again and again and they don't hear from him for the next 6 hours. Like dude, if I was that unresponsive with my parents at a time like this, my mom would take this slap, put it in an envelope and mail it to me so it could beat the shit out of me when I got here. Literally. So by 7 PM, his parents file a missing persons report in Orange County, which is where they live, but they also inform the police in the Button Willow area. Now this is where I really appreciate his parents' due diligence, because they end up calling his phone provider AT&T and they manage to do an emergency ping on his phone and he's still in fucking Button Willow. Like 9 hours later, he's still there. Like he could have come and gone home 3 times by then. Now police end up finding Bryce parked in his car only 8 miles away from his starting location. They do a sobriety test and he is sober. They even search his car and find no drugs whatsoever. And the police officers then tell him to call his parents because they're super worried, and for some reason he really does not want to call his parents at all, like not one bit. So they actually call her themselves and force Bryce to speak to them. Like what the fuck, man, your parents are worried sick, have a heart. Now the police officers reassure Karen that he seems perfectly fine to drive and she just tells Bryce just to eat something and come home already. Hours and hours later, Christian, the car guy who went to check on Bryce earlier, returns one of his parents' missed calls and Karen basically tells him that don't worry, Bryce is probably nearly home by now, so it's all good, don't worry about it. Now Christian, however, has a bad feeling and goes to check on Bryce and finds him still parked on the side of the road. Like mans has not moved. So at this point, Christian is like, you know what? Let me follow Bryce till he gets on the highway going to your house. So that way, all of us will have the peace of mind that he is moving, he is on the way home, and Karen agrees. So 10 miles into the highway, Christian is convinced that Bryce will make it home, so he finally turns around and heads home. And around every half an hour, his parents keep calling him to check in and see where he is, and he says, don't worry, it's dark, I can't give you a landmark, but the GPS says I'll be home at 3:25 AM. That is the time, don't worry, I'll be home by then. Now by 2:09 AM, Bryce calls his mum and tells her that he's too tired to drive and that he's gonna park and sleep for a bit and then continue the journey. And keep in mind, this boy's on Vyvanse, he hasn't slept for more than 24 hours now. So everyone goes to sleep and at 8 AM the next day, there's a knock on the door and finally Bryce is home. Psych! I wouldn't be doing this case if this story ended like that. No, it's police officers at the door and they inform the Laspisas that their car was found overturned near Castaic Lake and they can't find Bryce anywhere. And Castaic Lake is only 1 hour away from Button Willow. Now before I get into the juicy investigation that you guys are dying to hear about, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. Now I absolutely love Skillshare, you guys. It's an online learning platform that has thousands of classes on it, and since I have a really weird schedule, I can watch them whenever I want because they're all less than an hour long. What are you into? Photography, crafts, graphic design? They have it all, and with no ads. Now recently I took Emily Gannon's class called Finding Fulfillment Using Pivots to Power Your Creative Career, and I'm honestly forever doubting myself now that I'm self-employed, so I love finding guidance and inspiration wherever I can, and it was nice because I learned about how to feel in control when you're looking for opportunities, and how starting something new from what you're comfortable with is always so hard because it feels like an inevitable failure, and that's okay. So if you also want to do some classes, the first 1,000 of my subscribers to click the link in the description will get a month free trial of Skillshare, so you can start exploring today, you guys. Get on it! Tell me what classes you take. Anyway, back to it. The investigation. Now when police investigate the scene of the car, it looks like Bryce had driven off the main road and went up this hill towards a cell tower, and after he crossed the peak of the hill, he started accelerating down it towards the lake. And you know when you see a mirage and the water looks super close? Well, with the hill, it looks like the lake is directly at the bottom of the hill, but it's quite a few feet away. And so when he was hurtling down the hill, the car flipped over onto its side. And clues from the car itself told investigators that he must have pushed the back window out himself in order to get out of the car, and they also found tiny drops of his blood inside the car as well. But clearly, if you could smash a window to get out of the car and there was no blood found anywhere else, it's not like he was critically bleeding. Now weirdly enough, he left his bag and wallet outside of the car but left his laptop and phone inside. Now surely if he's having an emergency, which I feel like an overturned car is, you get your phone and you fucking call 911 or you call your mommy, and he did neither. Now investigators did an air search, divers checked the lake, but there was no sign of Bryce, and the boy had noticeable bright ginger hair, so he's hard to miss. But get this, you guys, due to some kind of miracle, there was a surveillance camera pointed at the hill that took note of the license plates of the cars that went up it. So the footage showed Bryce going up the hill at 2:15 a.m, which was a few minutes after he had called his mum telling her he was going to take a nap. So if we give him the benefit of the doubt, he could have just gone up there to nap on the hill, who knows? But then the camera picks up Bryce going up the hill again at 4:29 a.m, which was a mere hour before police found his car. So I have so many questions. What was he doing between 2:15 and 4:25 if he was not at the top or bottom of the hill during that time? Like, his behavior was so erratic and off, like I don't understand how the police told his parents, don't worry, your son is fine. Anyway, 9 days go by and there's still no indication of where Bryce is, so the police bring in bloodhounds who follow his scent from his car to across this road, going to a dam and then going to a truck stop, and that's where the trail ends. So clearly he got to this truck stop and God knows where he went after that. Onto the theories. Now theory number one is that based on his behavior, the texts he sent before he vanished, ending his relationship, his reluctance to go home, the giving away of his things, those all point to Bryce simply voluntarily disappearing. He was 19 years old, you're legally an adult at that age, and it seemed like everything that happened leading up to his car getting overturned was all self-inflicted. He's the one that kept stalling, and why speed down the decline of a hill where there's a huge drop at the end? If he wanted to be found, if he wanted help, he would have taken his phone or wallet or something, but he left his entire old life behind. Maybe he's out there somewhere now with dyed blonde hair and a better life. I don't know. Theory number two. Now the second theory is to do with his sudden Vyvanse usage. Maybe he didn't do his research before taking it, or maybe he thought it wasn't a big deal since so many college kids take these type of drugs in order to focus. Either way, Vyvanse actually has severe side effects, including mania, depression, and psychosis. And notice how he started taking it more and more, he became more withdrawn and antisocial. Now, I'm not blaming the drug, but that coupled with him not sleeping for 2 days, coupled with the kind of mental state he was in, we have no idea what he could have been thinking, and it's a very scary thought. Maybe he thought he had to make himself disappear for some odd reason. We don't know what the kind of paranoia and bad thoughts going through his mind. theory number 3. Now my third and final theory has to do with the bloodhounds tracking him to the truck stop. Now with no money or a phone, I'm guessing perhaps he asked a truck driver to take him somewhere or drop him off somewhere, or he asked for help like I need a job, I need a new start. He could have made up some bullshit like I ran away from home and I need somewhere to crash. Because if the scent stopped there, clearly he got into a vehicle of some sort, because how else would he become untraceable? Maybe the person helping him realized that, okay, this kid is troubled and in a precarious position, let me help him out, when they also could have had more sinister motivations and killed him, I don't know. And that is it for today's video, guys. Bryce's case actually was very interesting to me. I think I listened to the podcast twice just to really know my ins and out of the case. I still don't understand, the tracks, the bloodhounds tracked him. He had to have been still alive when he left the car, but why would he leave the car? Why would he leave his phone or his wallet? Why was he trying to run away? That's what I don't understand. Maybe he had a troubled home life that there's no details about. I really can't say, you guys. Let me know what you think happened to Bryce, if you have any theories in the comments below. And as always, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Bye!